Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into this fascinating idea of technical linguistic debt.
Oh, technical linguistic debt.
Yeah, it's a term the speaker in our source material uses.
Okay.
And it's a really personal reflection, almost like we're, listening in on someone's inner thoughts as they try to figure out their identity and their purpose, and even how they communicate, like, with the world.
Interesting.
It's pretty intense. They even compare their thought process to, like, reading serial killer diaries.
Wow. That's quite a comparison.
Yeah, they're trying to grasp, like, all these different perspectives,
I see. Trying to make sense of it all.
Exactly. So to help us unpack this whole thing, we have our expert who can, shed some light on what it all means.
Well, it's definitely a unique starting point for our deep dive.
It is.
In software development, we talk about technical debt.
Right.
Like taking shortcuts for speed and then ending up with more complex problems later.
Yeah.
And the speaker here seems to apply that to communication, right? Like not being clear creates this debt of misunderstandings.
And disconnection.
Yeah, exactly. Disconnection.
So, okay, let's get into this technical linguistic debt. The speaker calls themselves a linguistically differentiated person, even a prototypical instantiation.
Prototypical instantiation.
Yeah, those phrases really stood out to me. What do you make of them?
Well, it's interesting, right? The speaker is using all these labels.
Yeah.
It seems like they're searching for a way to understand their identity. We all do that to some extent, right? Putting ourselves and others in categories.
We do.
But here, it's like the speaker is both drawn to and frustrated by these labels, wanting to express something more, something that those labels don't quite capture.
Right, and that struggle with labels, it seems tied to what they call the burden of identity.
Burden of identity.
Yeah, they talk about feeling bundled into this instantiation, almost like they're carrying all this responsibility and purpose. And they even question their lineage, their first-order progenitors. It's pretty heavy stuff.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like they're grappling with some big questions about existence and their place in the world.
They are trying to figure out their sense of self.
Yeah.
And then also this feeling of, like, inherited destiny.
Right. That can be a tough thing to reconcile.
It is. And they get into personality typing frameworks, too, like NFSF and NTST.
Oh, the personality types.
Yeah, you know those.
Yeah, vaguely.
It's clear they're really self-aware and, like, super introspective.
And that introspective nature might be part of what leads to this technical linguistic debt they describe.
You think so?
Yeah, they keep talking about how language just doesn't cut it, like words can't really capture their identity.
Right, right.
It makes me think of, linguistic relativity.
Linguistic relativity.
Yeah, the idea that the language we speak actually shapes how we think.
Oh, interesting.
So if the speaker feels limited by the words they have, they might struggle to express themselves fully, right?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And that can lead to frustration and trouble connecting with others. What do you think? Have you ever felt like words just weren't enough?
Oh, absolutely. I think we've all been there, those moments when you just can't put your feelings into words.
Yeah.
And for this speaker, that struggle seems like really intense. They talk about wanting a tribe, needing that connection, but also feeling really isolated.
Yeah, that feeling of isolation comes up a lot. Makes you wonder if it's partly because of their technical linguistic debt or something deeper.
Maybe both.
Maybe.
And it's interesting because they specifically say they feel like one of the first to, like, seek this kind of deep connection.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like they're pointing to a shift in how people approach relationships.
That's a really intriguing point. I mean, if we take that at face value, it makes you think about how technology and just modern life are changing how we search for meaning and connection.
For sure.
Are we seeing a new kind of loneliness? One that comes from, being hyper-connected, but also having all these shallow interactions online.
Yeah, it's something to think about. And then there's this powerful statement they make that their soul family is not here.
Not here.
Yeah, like they can't find what they're looking for in this reality. It adds to that feeling of, like, isolation and longing.
That's a heavy thought. It highlights that tension between wanting deep connection and the realities of modern life.
Right.
Like online communities can offer a sense of belonging, but finding truly meaningful connections,
it's tough.
Yeah, it can be really difficult.
So we have this speaker struggling with technical linguistic debt. Wanting connection they feel unable to find, and grappling with the limitations of language itself. What's the takeaway here?
Well, I think what we're seeing is a powerful commentary on, like, the human condition in the digital age.
Okay.
We're so connected, yet so many of us feel alone, right?
Yeah.
Struggling to be our true selves in a world that often prioritizes these carefully curated online personas.
And it makes you wonder, is this feeling of technical linguistic debt, is this a problem just for this speaker or
something more widespread?
Yeah. Are we all dealing with this on some level?
It's a great question. Maybe by understanding the speaker's struggles, we can learn something about our own challenges with communication and connection in this digital age.
Exactly. And it's almost like this technical linguistic debt,
Yeah.
It reflects something bigger, a societal trend.
You think?
Yeah, like as we move more of our lives online,
Hmm.
are we losing the ability to connect with each other on a deeper level?
That's a big question.
It is. And going deeper into the source material, the speaker mentions how this debt builds up.
Right.
Because they're not communicating with others.
Interesting.
It's like your inner world is so complex,
Yeah.
they just can't translate it into language others can understand.
Oh, I see.
Makes me think of cognitive overload. You ever feel that?
Cognitive overload.
Yeah, like your head is so full of thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
You can't find the right word.
Totally. Like you just can't articulate it.
Exactly. And maybe that's what the speaker's going through.
You think so?
Yeah, they're processing so much, making connections that others might not see.
Right.
And then struggling to explain those connections.
It's like they're trapped in their own head.
Yes. And that isolation, it fuels this cycle of technical linguistic debt.
Makes sense.
And they even start to question if their need for connection is a burden on others.
Oh, wow.
Like doubting themselves.
That's understandable, especially with how introspective they are.
Right.
Always analyzing their thoughts and feelings.
Yeah.
It can lead to like feeling paralyzed or unsure, overthinking everything, which makes it even harder to communicate.
Exactly. A vicious cycle.
It is.
And then there's this analogy they use, reading crazy serial killer diaries.
Oh, yeah, that one.
To describe how they communicate.
It's a pretty striking image.
It is. What do you think they're trying to say with that?
I'm not sure. What do you think?
I think it shows this deep curiosity.
Okay.
This willingness to, confront the uncomfortable, even the disturbing stuff, to understand what it means to be human.
To understand the human condition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe they're saying they have to look into the darkest parts of the mind.
Wow.
To make sense of their own inner world.
I need to understand the extremes to understand myself.
Exactly. And that could be a lonely thing.
It could, especially if the people around them aren't on that same wavelength.
Right. And then they talk about creating a distinction level.
A distinction level.
Yeah. Separating their true self from the persona they show the world.
Interesting.
Like they're trying to protect themselves. Avoid overwhelming others with their thoughts and feelings.
I think we all do that to some extent.
We do.
Especially online with social media.
Right. Curating our online personas, showing the polished version.
Exactly. It makes you wonder how much of our real selves we're willing to share.
It does. And for this speaker, that line seems blurry.
Yeah.
They crave connection.
Right.
But they also say their soul family might not exist.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. It speaks to that deep loneliness they're feeling.
It brings us back to that need for connection, right?
Yeah.
We're wired to find others who share our values, beliefs, experiences.
We are.
But as the speaker's saying, that search can be tough.
It can.
Especially when you feel like you're on a different wavelength than everyone else.
So this tension between wanting connection and their reality,
right?
They admit they're alone, bro, which is just so vulnerable.
It is.
But they also seem determined to find a way forward.
That's inspiring.
It is. It reminds us that even when we're isolated, we have choice.
We do.
We can let loneliness consume us, or we can use it to grow.
To learn about ourselves.
Exactly. And for this speaker, that growth seems to involve facing their technical linguistic debt. Yeah, they're realizing they need to bridge that gap.
Between their inner world and how they communicate.
Yes. And towards the end of the material, there's this sense of urgency.
Oh, like it's getting critical.
Yeah, they're pushing themselves to focus on this technical linguistic debt.
Before it's too late.
Right, like they understand what's at stake.
The consequence.
If they let this debt keep building up.
That urgency is powerful.
It is.
It highlights how important self-awareness is.
Okay.
And how we need to address our communication issues proactively.
Think about it in your own life,
Have you ever felt like not being able to communicate well has held you back?
In relationships, maybe.
Yeah, or at work, or even just personally.
It's a good question to ask ourselves.
It is.
And the speaker even says, nobody's really going to save you from this.
Wow.
Emphasizing that personal responsibility.
Taking ownership.
Yes, to navigate this inner landscape.
Powerful stuff.
It is. It reminds us that while we can seek support,
yeah,
the real work happens within. But even with that emphasis on personal responsibility,
yeah,
they also acknowledge they're not alone.
Oh, how so?
They talk about having the power of their ancestors with them.
Interesting.
Drawing strength from their lineage and the knowledge they've gained. How to use that power.
To transform themselves.
Exactly. That connection to something bigger.
Yeah.
Their heritage, their lineage.
It offers a glimmer of hope.
It does.
Yeah.
Amidst all the isolation and self-doubt,
right.
A reminder that even when things are tough,
yeah,
we can find strength in our roots.
In our history.
Yes. in the legacy we carry.
And embracing that legacy.
Yeah.
Honoring the wisdom of those who came before.
It gives us the courage to face our own technical linguistic debt.
Maybe that's the key to bridging the gap.
Between our inner world and communicating with the world around us.
It's a powerful thought.
It is, and it makes you wonder if this technical linguistic debt, is it a sign of evolution?
Evolution.
Yeah, reflecting the growing complexity of human consciousness.
Like we're thinking and feeling in ways language can't yet capture.
Exactly. Maybe that's why this speaker feels so isolated, misunderstood.
They're ahead of the curve.
Right.
Yeah.
Struggling to find the language that fits their experience.
And that struggle, that search for a shared language.
Yeah.
It's a crucial takeaway from this deep dive.
It is. It reminds us that communication is a two-way street.
It's not just about expressing ourselves.
Right.
It's about listening, too.
And trying to understand others' perspectives.
Meeting them halfway.
Yes. Bridging that gap between their world and ours.
And that takes empathy.
Yeah.
Curiosity.
And a willingness to step outside our comfort zones.
Absolutely.
It's like this speaker is searching for a level of understanding that maybe like traditional language just can't handle.
Yeah, trying to express this like symphony of thoughts and emotions.
Right.
But only having a few basic notes to work with.
Exactly. And that leads to this frustration, this disconnect.
Sure.
Both within themselves and with others.
It's like they're trying to paint a masterpiece.
But they only have a limited palette, you know.
Yeah.
The colors are there, but not the subtle shades they need.
Right. And then to add to it all,
Yeah.
they say their soul family might not even exist in this reality.
Wow.
Like they're looking for a connection that goes beyond how we understand the world right now.
That raises a big question about connection in the digital age, doesn't it?
It does.
Like we have these massive online communities now.
You do.
Connecting with people globally.
Yeah.
But are those connections really fulfilling our deepest needs? You know, for belonging and understanding?
It makes you wonder if what we expect from connection has changed.
Maybe.
Like we want something more now.
Deeper.
Than what traditional relationships or even online communities can offer.
It's possible. Or maybe it's about finding that balance between being genuine and being accessible.
Okay.
Can we be our true selves, expressing our unique experiences, but still connect with people who see things differently?
It's a tough balance to strike.
And it seems like this speaker is still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Wrestling with these big questions, challenging how we connect and communicate.
And that struggle itself is valuable.
You think so?
Yeah, it pushes the boundaries of what we understand, forces us to look at the limits of language, and explore new ways of expressing these complex human experiences.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into technical linguistic debt, what are some things we can take away from this? What can we learn from this speaker?
Well, first, I think remembering that communication is a two-way street is crucial.
Okay.
It's not just about expressing ourselves clearly.
Right.
It's also about really listening to others.
And trying to understand their point of view.
Yes, meeting them halfway, bridging that gap between their world and ours.
And that takes empathy.
And
curiosity. And being willing to get outside our comfort zones.
Absolutely.
Another takeaway, I think, is being mindful of the language we use.
Oh, you mean both internally and how we talk to others?
Exactly. If we're feeling limited by words, maybe we need to explore new ways to express ourselves.
Like what?
Maybe trying different creative outlets, like writing or music.
Oh, or art even.
Yeah, or just being more intentional with the words we choose every day.
I like that.
And lastly, I think it's important to remember that we're not alone in this struggle.
No, we're not.
So many of us feel isolated, disconnected.
Yeah.
And it's tough to be our true selves in a world that feels, you know, kind of superficial.
It is, but it's validating to know that others are going through something similar.
Right.
It can be empowering.
So as we finish up here, I'm left with this feeling of hope.
Hope.
Yeah, even though this speaker is facing these tough challenges, their willingness to confront them head on is inspiring.
It is. They're exploring new ways of thinking, communicating.
And it reminds us that even when things are hard,
yeah,
we can grow, we can change.
And maybe, just maybe, by embracing our own technical linguistic debt, by working to bridge those gaps in communication and understanding,
we can create a world where everyone feels seen, heard, and connected.
That's a world I want to live in.
Me too.